Thank you again. Thank you for the invitation. It's good to be the last one. I do not to explain what the RCGR is, or how FAPESP works to fund it, how Shell is keen to sponsor the center. It's a very comfortable position. So I can bring on my own one single perspective on two very important challenges that I have seen and actually experienced from the inside. So this is more a view and an opinion from someone who is on the front line trying to manage people and assets and ideas in these past 5 years in our center. Of course, this is related to triple helix, and I would like to show you why. Now, we all know that the triple helix model as a theory, the theorization of the triple helix model is very interesting as a topic in itself. And we understand, and I'm pretty sure you're all convinced, that within the triple helix model, we are much stronger. So the chances of success are much, much better. Just by bringing three strong forces together, making them even stronger and more ready for fruits in the future as an innovation model. So I do not need to justify that. But I would like to highlight some things that are happening on the interface of the triple helix model as we project our RCGI center or perhaps other centers onto this framework, this model. Now, through the triple helix model, we have access to more than just three components. And we have access to many companies through the network that Shell operates, their own partnerships, the other companies and interests that Shell brings on board when they say out publicly that they are sponsoring research within a center. We also have access to many other governmental bodies, state of São Paulo and also federal bodies that are regulating this enterprise, but also some other agencies that are also behind and brought together by FAPESP and ANP, specifically in our case, which is the regulator for oil and gas and biofuels in Brazil. And of course, Shell, the other companies, they benefit from the academic links that the university itself is the only responsible for building. So it's very hard for Shell to relate and contact as many universities as possible in Brazil, but it's quite straightforward to create one center and then interact through this center with many labs of high expertise in the country and especially in the state of São Paulo. So there are more people than just three components to this. And the plan and the idea of this model, I believe, is to fructify in the future, making this sustainable and accessing spin-offs of centers like this by the relationship established in the center. So the triple helix has a very powerful mission, I guess, and potential in that direction. But now, one important aspect of our center is the regulation by the federal ANP. And every single penny that Shell spends in research and development in the country must receive a thumbs up from ANP, must get ANP's approval. It has to be money qualified for that in the country. So you have a regulator, not just a funding agency from the government, but also regulator, the eyes of the sector are on top of the center as well. And this is crucial for the existence of the center, and this is fundamental to motivate Shell to invest a considerable amount of their money into research at that level. But now, there are some aspects, and I would like to highlight only two of them, that are developing on the border of this, the three relationships that I highlighted here. Well, the first one is related to the ecosystem for the innovation and transfer of technology. Of course, the model that Marcondes so presented so well of the CPD, or the C from Center, P for research, I'm trying to think in English and Portuguese here, D for diffusion of knowledge, and I for innovation, is in the DNA of our center. It exists to do that, and it operates on those three vectors. But when it comes to the practical daily operation of the center, to implement and to create an innovation and technology transfer ecosystem is quite tricky. It's very hard. Of course, you have access for funding, you have access to partnerships that will develop later in the future. But when it comes to the daily motivation of PhD students, of postdocs, and the genesis of the spin-offs and startups, for them to see and to be wanting, to step out and to create businesses and products, it's quite tricky. So we see at the moment, we're trying to figure out a fruitful way to develop this innovation and technology transfer ecosystem within this triple helix model, knowing that perhaps it will be a concentrated effort of the university, because that's where people are, with a push from the industry, that's where the partnerships are, with another push from the government, especially for PESP, on funding startups. But the locus where this ecosystem happens is within the university environment. So the entrepreneurial university model is quite important to be developed here, since it hosts the innovation and technology transfer models, because it deals with the people, with the individuals who eventually make the step out of the box. And one thing we have to do is to develop partnerships, do training, show them access for funding and so on, and to convince them from the beginning that transfer of technology and innovation is more than just a patent. It's not just filing a patent and your job's done. It's a bit more than that. It's to make that to fruitify. Now, my second aspect is related to that one. That's my role at the moment, but my previous role was directing diffusion of knowledge and communications in our center. And this is another important aspect as well, because it does not only deal with the three components, but here it tackles the outer component of civil society. And those who are working on triple helix models may see this as the quadruple helix model, with civil society surrounding the relationships we already have established in the triple helix. I don't want to criticize or to talk about the theory of triple or quadruple helix models just now. This is not my topic. My emphasis lies on the actions we have to do to properly send out knowledge or communicate knowledge to society. It's not just an internal communication between the three parts that only see numbers and actions, but it's an outer communication. Now, you have to target the right public, you have to find the right media, you have to decide on the content and the depth of the communication, and you have to create proper metrics. Meaning that this requires proper communication or professional communication tools. And this costs something. It's not something to be done by a PhD student in their spare time. It's something that requires professional abilities. It requires a budget and professional actions. Now, again, making a parallel to the innovation model, diffusion of knowledge in this context is more than just publishing a paper. It's more than just sending something to a journal. It tackles education, public policy, industries, future and enterprises, the next generation, and in our case specifically, how do you communicate sustainability to the society in the 21st century? So this all requires more than just scientific publications. So my final comment here is we have to look at those two perspectives, diffusion of knowledge and technology transfer, not just sideline initiatives of the center. They are core initiatives that they need to exist for the center to function. Now, if they need to exist, they have to be considered from the beginning as a strategy for the center to work. And you have to invest money on that. You have to have a budget, and you require professional people. You require these areas to be treated more or less like the research project itself. So you are funding a portfolio of research projects within a center. You might as well officially fund, initiatives for communication, diffusion of knowledge, innovation, and transfer of technology. The problem is this kind of funding is not recognized by the government, by the regulators at the moment. Sometimes it's a difficult money to be assessed by FAPESP and all the other side, the three parts as well. So most of the time, we have had difficulties to implement this kind of double-sided strategy, knowing that they are core for the center to work, but still trying to find a way to put them into the DNA of the budget, the spreadsheet, and the design of the center. Now, my dream here and my plan is to find a way, a recipe, and perhaps a working plan to have diffusion of knowledge, innovation and transfer of technology as well established as the research is in our centers. At the same time that you send a proposal for projects, for 46 projects in our case at the moment, you might as well just have one or two projects with people, funding, metrics, and deliverables for those two aspects as well. So these are the two challenges I would like to see properly addressed in the DNA of our centers, and also well cared for in the Triple Helix partnership. Karen, I send it back to you. Thank you for your time, and if you have questions, I'm happy to take them.
Thank you very much, Gustavo. I think it was a very interesting overview of each of you. I know how challenging it was because it talk about so many things in so a short time. But thank you very much for talking about the role of each of these parts, the benefits and challenges that also are involved in this aspect.